The men we pulled from the Atlantic still knock on my door when it rains. My name is Tom Hale. I was an asdic operator on HMS Calder, an escort destroyer on convoy duty out in the North Atlantic. My job was to listen to the water U-boats below, ships dying on the surface, men screaming between the two. One March night in 1941, we hauled men out of the black who should have been rotting on the bottom already. I thought I left them there. I didn't. Now it's just a council flat on the edge of Portsmouth. Thin walls, old plumbing, radiator that gurgles like a man trying to breathe through a chest full of water. I sit in this armchair that smells of dust and liniment, blanket over my knees, mug of tea cooling on the little table. Outside, the gutters overflow. Rain beats on the sill. Every few minutes there's that hollow open-palmed sound on the wood. Not knuckles, hands, wet hands. I don't look at the door. I look at the photograph instead. Cheap frame, glass cracked at the corner. A row of men on a destroyer's quarterdeck, duffel coats and white caps, eyes narrowed in Atlantic wind. Billy Marsh has his arm hooked round my neck, pulling me in so I'm half blurred, laughing at something he's just said. Ellis has a cigarette stuck to his lip, hands in pockets. McLeod's cap is tipped too far back, like always. There are more faces behind us. Faces I was sure I'd never see again after 1940, until they came up through the black beside our scrambling nets, coughing water they shouldn't have had lungs for. The rain on the windows slows. The knocking doesn't. Something drags its fingers down the paint. It squeals, high and wet. My tea ripples in the mug. The damp in the room shifts, picks up a sour tank of rope, oil, and old salt. Like the mess deck when someone's fouled the scuppers and the pumps can't keep up. Go away, I tell the door, quietly. The bathroom tap starts running on its own. Just a trickle, thin, steady. It sounds like teeth chattering over the intercom. I reach for my walking stick and touch the carved nick near the handle. Same size and shape as the dent in the asdic console on Calder's bridge, where my head hit it the night the echo on the screen turned into men in the nets. My hand shakes. All right, I say, to nobody in the room. We'll start there. The first time I see them, it's March 1941, and the Atlantic is trying to tear the ship in half. I'm 22. My world is a humming screen, a circular trace of green light, headphones pressed on my ears until my skull aches. The asdic room on Calder is just off the bridge, a cramped cave of valves, dials, and stale sweat. The destroyer bucks and shudders as she drives into another swell. Somewhere above, spray lashes the windscreen and stings the eyes of whoever's got the watch. Bearing steady, I mutter into the voice pipe, eyes on the blip, creeping round the dial. No Doppler. Contact doubtful. The captain's voice comes back, clipped, tired. Not good enough. Hale. I want firm, or I want nothing. The Huns have been busy tonight. I adjust gain, thumb twitching. The ping goes out, a sharp metallic tick in my ears. A second. Two. A faint smear answers, then dies in static. Negative, I say. Might be a thermal. Might be my imagination. Very likely your imagination. Someone calls from outside. Billy, always listening. Even when he's supposed to be doing something else. The ship rolls hard. My stool skids an inch, metal legs groaning. A mug in the corner slides and smacks into the bulkhead. Somewhere below, depth charges rattle against their rails like restless teeth. Another one then, the captain says. Last sweep before we settle. I swallow and lean in. The headphones cling, damp with my own sweat. The ping goes out again, slicing into black water that has already taken ships from this convoy. We've already seen 2 pillars of flame go up on the horizon tonight, and 1 orange glow that lasted longer than it should have. The sea throws back clutter and noise. Nothing clean, nothing like a U-boat hull. Negative, I say, and this time I'm sure. Ocean noise only. There's a short silence, then a muffled sigh. Very well. Secure. Tell Marsh to get the watch below some tea before they mutiny. I pull the headphones off. The world widens, fills with the thrum of turbines and the muffled crash of waves against steel. My ears ring with phantom pings. Billy sticks his head round the hatch, cap tilted, grin already in place. So the mighty oracle says we don't all die in the next 10 minutes, he says. That's comforting. He's got hands like a docker and a little chip in his front tooth from a pub fight in Southampton. He chews gum constantly, jaw moving even when there's nothing in his mouth, like his body forgot how to be still. Right now he's soaked to the skin, duffel coat streaming onto the deck. Bridge wants you to remember you can say submarine, as well as negative if you ever fancy a change, he adds. You want to swap? I say, hanging the headphones on their hook. You sit in the cupboard and go deaf. I'll stand up top and get waves in the face and abuse from officers. Could be refreshing. He snorts. I like my nose where it is. Thanks. Up there they get it knocked off if they stand in the wrong place. Another roll shudders through the hull. The light bulb overhead swings on its wire. They're still burning, Billy says. Quieter now. Aft of the convoy. Saw it from the wing. You can smell it, even in this wind. Like someone's lit a giant bloody bonfire. I know what he means. The air tastes wrong. Underneath the salt and the cold, a greasy temps of burning oil, and something sweeter underneath. Paint. Wood. Other things. You'll make me nostalgic, I say. Come on then. We push out onto the bridge. The wind punches my face, shoving cold fingers down the open collar of my duffel coat. The sky is a low lid of cloud, pressed down on us. The only light is our hooded lamps, and the periodic white flash of a signal, Aldous from another escort farther out. Ahead, the convoy is a ragged line of dim shapes, each freighter riding heavy bows, burying in the swell. Astern, to starboard, a smear of orange glows in the murk. Once human timbers and steel are still burning on the skin of the sea. Ellis, our wireless op, stands hunched by the voice pipe, a cigarette hidden in his cupped hand. He always looks like he hasn't slept in a week, eyes shadowed, hair flattened by his headphones. There's an old crime novel jammed in his pocket, the cover nearly worn off. Any joy? He asks. Only if your idea of joy is nothing happening, I say. My idea of joy is land, he says. And women, in that order. Blasphemy, Billy says. You'll upset the spirit of the sea. Which one? Ellis flicks ash into the scupper. We've killed half of them with depth charges by now. Don't say that, McLeod mutters as he squeezes past us, heading for the wing. He's short, thick-shouldered, cap shoved back, jumper sleeves rolled up, despite the cold. His forearms are hairy and red from engine room heat. There's a string of something round his wrist, tucked under the wool. What's that? I nod at it. He pulls the sleeve down. Too late. Nothing. It's a charm, Billy says, already grinning. Our Scots philosopher here's got himself a wee bit o-string to keep the North Atlantic off his back. Tell them, Mac. Tell them about your drowned men. McLeod gives him a look like he'd happily drop him down a funnel. The ship rises and falls under our boots, boards creaking. It's not for the Atlantic, he says. His accent flattens the vowels, puts weight on the R. It's for what's in it. U-boats mostly, Ellis says. Before them, McLeod glances at the burning smear on the horizon. Long before them, back home we call them draugr, Old Norse word. Dead men that don't stay where you put them. Skippers in the islands would warn you. Don't take in anyone you don't know. Not in a storm, not at night, not if you can't see their boat. Sea throws up things it wants you to have, and things it wants to keep for itself. Billy rolls his eyes. Here we go. You can laugh, McLeod says. But ask the old boys in Stornoway why some names never get put on the stone. Why some men never get prayed for in church. They went out when they shouldn't, or pulled in something they shouldn't. And after that, there's always more names. The wind snatches his words, flings them into dark. Somewhere out there, a freighter siren moans, long and low. Cheerful lot, you islanders, Ellis says. I look over the rail. The sea is alive with white water and black troughs. In the spaces between waves, bits of wreckage bob and vanish. Planks, a crate, something that might once have been a lifeboat. The glow astern flickers, dims, flares again as the ship's corpse turns in the swell. You really believe that stuff? I ask McLeod. He shrugs. I believe that water is not empty. That's enough. A gust throws spray over the bridge. It stings my cheeks, tastes of iron. The next night, we hear them. We've run with the convoy all day, zigzagging ahead of the columns, asdic pinging, eyes peeled for feathered tracks of torpedoes. We drop a pattern on a doubtful contact at noon and bring up nothing but churned water in a strip of oil. At dusk, the sky clears just enough to show a thin smear of sickly moon above the clouds. The night watch comes on. I grab a quick mug of something that claims to be cocoa and head back to my cave. The headphones go on. The world narrows again to blips and ticks. Hours pass measurable only by the ache in my back and the changing of the names on the bridge roster outside. Pings out, pings back. Mostly nothing. Sometimes a fleeting smear as we cross the convoy's wake or pick up a whale far below. Around 2 in the morning, the sea's song changes. It's subtle at first, a strange, low-frequency murmur under the usual wash and echo. A tremor I can't quite pin to bearing or range. I frown, thumb moving the gain. Anything, comes the captain's voice. Hold one, I say. Might be temperature. Or, I turn a dial, trying to clear the fuzz. The noise sharpens, sorts itself into a pattern. Not random, not mechanical. Something like a thump, then a softer smear, then another thump. It sounds like oars, far away. My scalp prickles under my cap. Report Hale, the captain says. Sharper now. Unknown contact, I say. Weak. Bearing 0-8-5. No Doppler. Repeating pattern. Could be wreckage bumping. Or a boat. A boat. That's Billy over the voice pipe this time, half a laugh in the word. Out here, it's what it sounds like, I say. Rowing. There's a short silence. I imagine them on the bridge, leaning in, eyes cutting through rain and dark. Very well, the captain says. Alter course to investigate. Signal to convoy. Escort detaching temporarily. Best speed we can manage without losing our teeth. Calder heels as she swings. The asdic trace wobbles, settles. The thump smear thump grows a fraction stronger. I hear McLeod's voice somewhere near the voice pipe. Low, tight. Leave it, sir. If it's a boat this far out, with no flares, no lamp, you don't want it. That'll do, stoker, the captain says, but his tone is thoughtful. We drive into the dark. I come out onto the wing after 10 minutes because I can't stand the cave anymore. The cold hits like a slap. The sea is worse than last night, waves breaking white against the bow, spray flung high. The convoy's stern lights are dim behind us now, like a receding constellation. Billy stands by the searchlight housing, one hand on the rail. Ellis hovers by the bridge wing, a signal lamp under his arm, in case some idiot freighter sends us a question. Range, the captain calls. Can't say, I shout back. Sounds funny, but it's stronger. Then I hear it without the phones. Not clearly, not like in the headphones. But underneath the crash and groan, there's a different rhythm, a hollow beat and a dragging pause. Like something heavy being pulled again and again through thick water. A shape rears up to starboard. At first I think it's a patch of white water, catching the light. But then the moon slithers out from behind a cloud and we see them. Men in the sea. They're bunched together, clinging to something low and black just awash. The keel of an overturned boat. White faces, white cork life jackets glowing faintly. Arms waving, mouths opening in shouts. We can't hear over our own screws. Jesus, Billy says. Hands to rescue stations. The captain snaps. Get them in before they freeze. Solid. There's a rush of movement as seamen pour onto the deck. Someone swings a scrambling net over the side, its weighted bottom slapping the hull. Lines are coiled, thrown. The searchlight snaps on, a harsh white spear that cuts across the waves and pins the little tangle of humanity in its beam. They're close enough now that I can see their eyes. They look wrong. Too dark, too deep in their heads, as if bruised. The beam washes over cork, cloth, wet hair plastered to skulls. Their skin is a grey pale color I've seen on drowned men, but these ones thrash and grab at the ropes with frantic life. Easy, someone yells. One at a time, for Christ's sake. A hand lunges for the net. Fingers clamp onto a rung, knuckles bone white. A man hauls himself up, boots kicking in the surf. Two of ours lean over, grab his life jacket, drag. He comes over the rail in a flurry of limbs and spray, slamming down on the wet deck. He lies there a second, chest heaving, water pooling under him. Then he rolls, coughing, eyes squeezing shut. Billy drops to one knee beside him. "You're all right, mate? You're all right. Where you from?" The man's lips twitch. Voice grates up out of his chest. "Bedford," he croaks. "HMS Bedford." The name hits the air like a thrown wrench. I feel something go tight in my chest. Ellis actually laughs. A short, incredulous bark. "Pull the others in," the captain says swiftly, voice flattened. "We'll sort details later. Move." More men come up the net. 7 in total. They collapse in a row along the deck, shivering, making small sounds like animals. Their kit is odd. Old pattern K-pop, life jackets stained darker than ours, some with frayed edges. One still has a whistle attached to his, green with verdigris. Their duffel coats are heavier, buttons not quite right. We hustle them into the mess, out of the wind. The heat in there is a hammer after the cold. The air smells of stew, tobacco, and damp wool. Somebody drapes blankets over shoulders, presses enamel mugs of something hot into numb hands. I stand by the door, watching. Their faces in the electric light are the color of tallow. Lips blue-edged, cracked, eyes sunk so deep under dark lids, it's like they've been punched for hours. "Right?" the captain says, when the worst of the shivering has turned to little jerks instead of full body shakes. He's a thin man. Our skipper, spectacles always sliding down his nose, voice usually mild. "Not tonight." "Who's senior here?" One of the rescued men lifts his head. He's got a faint mustache and a scar along his jaw, half hidden by stubble. The tag on his collar reads ABT, Riley, though the letters are worn nearly smooth. "Leading Seaman Riley, sir," he says. His voice is wrong for his face, low, rough, as if he's been screaming for a week. "Thank you for the lift." There's a weak ripple of laughter from my own lot. Sailors like that. Bravado in the face of anything. "Ship and date of sinking?" the captain asks. "Destroyer HMS Bedford," Riley says. "Scapa to Iceland. Hit by tin fish aft. Broke her back. Went under in about 4 minutes. We were in the water about," he pauses, eyes going sideways. "About an hour before you picked us up, I suppose." Ellis and I look at each other. I can see the same thought forming in his eyes. The captain's mouth tightens. "HMS Bedford was lost in March last year," he says. "Off the Faroes. I read the signal myself. No survivors." Riley blinks. His lips twitch. For a second, something almost like a smile flickers and dies. "With respect, sir," he says quietly. "We're here." The mess goes very still. Even the always bubbling stew pot on the stove seems to quieten. One of the other men huddled on the bench starts to laugh. A high, cracked giggle. Another punches him in the shoulder. Not very hard. McLeod crosses himself under his breath. "Names," the captain says. "I want all your names. Then we'll see what the Admiralty has to say." We write them down. 7 names. 7 numbers. 7 ratings of a ship that, according to every list in memory, should have been a year-dead tomb in cold water. Later, on the bridge, the captain stares at the signal pad while Ellis taps at his key. "To Admiralty, from HMS Calder. Stop. Rescued 7 men claiming to be crew of HMS Bedford. Stop. All appear. British RN. Stop. Request instructions and verification. Stop." The reply comes 3 hours later, just as first light creeps under the low lid of cloud. Records confirm HMS Bedford lost with all hands. March 1940, Faroe Islands area. Stop. No survivors recorded. Stop. Retain men under guard. Proceed to Liverpool. For debrief. Stop. Ellis reads it twice, mouth moving. Then he looks at me. So he says, "Who did we pull out of the drink, exactly?" I don't have an answer. I only know that when I go down to the mess again, the air is colder than the rest of the ship, and Riley's eyes follow me like he's been waiting for me in particular. He knows my name before I give it. "Tom," he says, when I hover by the table. "You're Tom Hale, from Belfast." Calder's asdic. My skin crawls. "We haven't met." He smiles. It does not reach his eyes. "We were in your wake last year," he says. "We heard your pings. You were very close when Bedford went under. I remember that night. A doubtful contact off the Faroes. A destroyer ahead of us that vanished in a flash in a roll of smoke. Our own captain cursing, ordering us through the wreckage. Too late to do anything but count bodies and bits of wood." "How do you know that?" I ask. "We listen," he says. "Out there, you listen or you don't last long." McLeod refuses to go into the mess after that. He eats, standing in the passage, back to the bulkhead, plate in hand. "Draugr," he says to me, low, the word rough in his throat. "I told you, dead that won't stay dead. They come up when they smell more drowning. Or when something has their names. We gave the Admiralty their names," I say. "Maybe that will fix it." He gives me a look like I've said something particularly stupid. "That's what calls them," he says. "You fix them in ink. They find you. We are supposed to keep the 7 under guard. That's the instruction. But the ship is small. The sea is big. Guards are just more men in a mess that is already full. We assign 2 lads to sit near them at all times, with sidearms. They doze. They smoke. They listen to stories. Riley and his mates don't say much. When they do, it's little things. Shipboard jokes that went out of fashion before the war. Songs half remembered. Names of pubs and ports that have been bombed flat. They never ask what year it is. They never ask what happened to Bedford's captain. They never ask about their families. At night, I wake to the sound of boots on deck above my head. Boots that don't match the watch bill. A line of footsteps that cross from one side of the ship to the other and stop at the rails. More than once, I find salty puddles under the mess benches in the morning, though nobody's knocked anything over. The sea, which I have always thought of as chaotic and indifferent, starts to show patterns. 3 nights after the rescue, the convoys hit again. We know the U-boats are out there. We've been told in signals. Wolfpack operating in our area. Aggressive. Experienced. The weather has cleared enough that the sky shows a dull smear of stars. Just enough for silhouettes to be visible. I'm at the asdic ears already half dead when the first torpedo hits. The sound is like God slamming his fist into the hull of the world. It comes through the water and the metal and my bones all at once. A flat hump and a long drawn-out tearing groan. Hit on the port column comes the shout from above. "Tanker." The ship rings like a bell. Crockery smashes. Someone swears. I rip the headphones off and bolt for the ladder. On deck, the night is orange. The tanker's amidships is a fountain of flame. She bends in the middle like a broken toy, her bow and stern rearing as the center disintegrates into roaring fire. Oil spills out in a spreading black sheet that catches and becomes a floating inferno. Men are in the water again. Their screams ride the wind. Some are fire, some are silhouettes against fire. Some vanish under burning slick. "Hard a port," the captain yells. "Get us clear of that bloody stuff. Guns, stand by. See if you can hit the bastard who fired that." We weave through chaos. Guns bark, tracers stitching the dark, as some poor sod thinks he sees a periscope where there's only wave. The heat from the burning tanker washes over us and pulses, sweat prickling on my neck even in the cold. Over it all, a sound threads itself I don't recognize at first. A thin, ragged singing. I look aft. On the quarterdeck, the 7 rescued men stand in a neat line by the rail. They're not in duffel coats now. They're in what's left of their old uniforms. Pale blue shirts under dark jumpers. Bedford's cap ribbons hanging long and wet. Water drips steadily from their cuffs and hems, puddling round their boots. They are singing. The tune is old. I don't know the words. A folksy shanty, maybe, or something older. Their voices are hoarse and low, but they cut through the wind in a way that makes the hair on my arms stand up. Get them inside, Billy shouts, scrambling aft. You can sightsee later. He grabs Riley's sleeve. Riley doesn't move. His head is turned, gaze fixed on the burning tanker. His lips move around the last line of the verse. Leave them, McLeod says, appearing at my elbow like he's been conjured. His face is white under the grime. They're not yours to order. What the hell does that mean? Billy snaps. Before Mac can answer, something large and dark looms out of the smoke off our starboard beam. For a second, I think it's another freighter. Then my brain registers the shapes, the slanted funnel, the raked bow, the pattern of plates on the hull. It is a destroyer, or the ghost of one. No lights, no wake. She glides through the burning slick like a knife through cloth. Her sides are blackened, scarred. Her stern is missing, torn off just aft of the rear gun. Water pours from the ragged hole in a slow, continuous sheet. Across her bows, just visible in the stutter of flame, is a name, Bedford. I hear myself say no out loud, as if that will help. Calder shudders. The men on our quarterdeck fall silent. For a heartbeat, the ghost destroyer sails parallel to us, so close I could almost reach across. There are men on her deck, more of them, moving too slowly, as if underwater. Their caps are at odd angles. Some are bareheaded, hair swirling like it's floating. Their faces are turned toward us. Many have no eyes. The next roll of the sea should change things, but it doesn't. The ghost Bedford keeps perfect station even as we pitch and yaw. She's making no wake, Ellis says, voice thin. She's dead in the water, but she's keeping up. Riley lifts his head. For the first time, his face shows something like feeling. Home, he says softly. The sea rises between us. A wall of dark water, black silhouette against orange. When it falls, Bedford is gone. The burning tanker still roars. Men still scream. Our own hull still bangs and groans. But the space off our starboard quarter is suddenly, stupidly empty. The 7 on our deck are gone too. Where they stood, there are only puddles. Not just water, oil, thick, black, clinging, with a faint rainbow sheen where the light hits it. Billy slips in one and nearly goes down. He steadies himself, stares. Where'd they? He begins. A shout from the bow cuts him off. Contact. Torpedo track. Starboard. The next 20 minutes are pure, human chaos. Helm orders, engine bells, depth charges rolling and slamming the sea in geysers. My world shrinks again to pings and bearings and yelling, the supernatural pushed aside by the immediate need not to die. We survive the night. Several of the convoy do not. In the gray light of morning, Calder limps back to station with scorched paint on her starboard side and 2 depth charges wasted on empty water. The tanker burns fitfully astern, her remains a black smudge on a flat horizon. The 7 men from Bedford are back in the mess. They are dry, their hair is combed. Their clothes hang on them a little differently, as if they'd been wrung out and redressed. Riley's eyes track me as I come in. Rough one, he says. Your port 5 saw it worst. I don't ask how he knows which ship was hit. I have not told them. No one has. You left the deck, I say. You disappeared. He cocks his head. We go where we're needed. Ellis, who's come down behind me, mutters something obscene and crosses to the stove. You needed to be on the quarterdeck, he says roughly. Under guard. Preferably with a priest and a chain round your neck. None of them laugh. That day, little things start failing. A lamp in the forward passage bursts, showering glass. A locker that's always been easy to open sticks fast until 2 men wrench at it. The compass spins twice in its binnacle and settles, pointing 20 degrees off true until someone bangs the housing. In the engine room, McLeod swears he hears voices in the roar and rattle. Not the usual shouted orders, but low, conversational voices, speaking in a flat, old-fashioned English. "We had men talking down there," he says to me later, his own voice shaking, "but their mouths weren't moving." "Could have been echoes," I say, "or the wireless bouncing." He looks at me like I'm a child. "You heard their ship," he says. "You saw it. Why are you still pretending?" "Because admitting it will make it real. Because my brain is built to label things. U-boat or wreck, signal or noise. And this is neither." The Admiralty signals again. "Confirm men under restrained guard. Stop. Do not discuss, except with senior officers. Stop. Any unusual behavior to be recorded in detail. Stop." We start a notebook. It fills quickly. Day 1, after the burning tanker. Riley predicts a depth charge failure 10 minutes before it happens, glancing up from his mug and saying that one won't go. You know, just before the charge tumbles off the rail and vanishes without a plume. Day 2, one of the other Bedford men, a quiet lad called Harris, who sits with his hands folded and eyes down, hums a tune at breakfast that MacLeod recognizes as a funeral hymn used in his village for men lost at sea. We haven't sung it aboard Calder. He has not. Day 3, a name appears on the casualty lists posted in the wardroom. It's written in Ellis's hand, same ink, same slope. ABC Morton. There is no such rating on Calder's crew roster. The captain scratches it out, frowning. The next day, it is there again, a fraction darker, the ink barely dry. "I didn't write that," Ellis says, shaken. "I wouldn't joke about lists. You know that. MacLeod is the first of ours to die. It happens in a calm patch, which somehow makes it worse. The sea has settled to a long, oily swell. The sky is low and gray. We're between squalls. The convoy plods on. Mac is on the afterdeck, checking the lashings on the depth charges. It's dull, repetitive work, the kind that makes your mind wander. Billy and I are by the rail, sharing a tin of something that claims to be peaches, but tastes mostly of tin. "Look at him," Billy says, nodding at Mac. "Always fussing. We've hit nothing for days. Huns have gone to bother some other poor sods. He doesn't like things loose," I say. "Man, like that's going to die of ulcers, not a torpedo," Billy says. He's wrong. It starts with a shout. Not MacLeod. Someone else. One of the lads at the ready-use lockers. "Mac, watch it." I turn. MacLeod is by the rail, one hand on a depth charge clipping. The other is on the top of the rail, knuckles white. For a heartbeat he's just there. Then something jerks him. He goes over the side with a sharp, surprised grunt. Not a scream. Just air being punched out of a body. For a moment his hands are there, fingers clawing at empty space. Then they're gone. We run. Billy gets to the rail first. He leans so far out I grab the back of his duffel coat to stop him following. "Float," he bellows. "Man overboard." There is no man, only water. Gray, indifferent, slapping against black paint. Something bumps the hull below us. A dull, heavy thud, almost like a body. For a fraction of a second, I see Mac's face beneath the surface, eyes open, hair streaming up instead of down. His mouth is moving. Bubbles spill out, bursting white. Behind him, in that same patch of water, something darker looms. A hull, maybe impossibly close, layered under the surface like a reflection of our own. Letters slide by in wavering shadow. BED. The wave lifts. The picture breaks. When it falls again, there is only water. We throw a life buoy. We drop speed an instant, then pick it back up because there are rules about this, and convoys don't stop for one man. We scan the wake. Nothing. On the quarterdeck, the 7 men from Bedford stand again in their neat row. There's no guard on them now, because the guards are leaning over the rail with the rest of us, looking for a man who isn't there. Riley meets my eye across the deck. He lifts 2 fingers to his cap in a little salute. "One of ours now," he says. "Shut your mouth," Billy snarls. He lunges. If I hadn't grabbed his arm, he might have hit Riley hard enough to kill him, and I don't know what that would have done to any of us. "Tom," he hisses at me later, in the mess, hands shaking as he tries to light a cigarette. You saw it. Something had him. He didn't slip. He was pulled. I don't answer. In my head, I see Mac's wrist charm, the little bit of string with something tied on. Later, going through his kit, I find it in his locker, not on his body. The string is dry. The charm is a tiny, corroded brass token in the shape of a ship. Bedford's outline. Stop writing, the captain says, when I bring him the notebook that night. We'll keep it in our heads from now on. Ink only seems to encourage it, but I can't stop. The names keep appearing on lists. Men we haven't lost yet. Morton's name stays. 2 days after Mac, a signalman called Mortimer goes up to the bridge wing in a squall and doesn't come back. The rope on the guiding rail is found worn through where his hand would have held it. Fibers chewed, not frayed. The list corrects itself that evening. ABC Mortimer. Someone has filled in the missing letters. The rescued 7 do not eat. Not that I ever see. Plates go out. Plates come back scraped clean. But I never see fork to mouth. I never see them swallow. They don't sleep either. They sit in the mess through all hours, backs to the bulkhead, eyes half-lidded, like men on a train waiting for their stop. Where do you go? I ask Riley once, unable to help myself. When you vanish, when we blink and you're gone. He tilts his head. Under, he says simply. Same as you will. We're still afloat, I say. He glances up, toward the deckhead, toward the weight of gray water above the little metal skin that keeps us all alive. For now, he says. The convoy nears home. The charts say we're approaching the western approaches. Land should be a promise. It doesn't feel like one. It feels like an ambush. U-boat packs love this stretch. So do things that aren't in any manual. The night before we're due to peel off for Liverpool. The sea goes glassy. No wind, no swell. The ships of the convoy move through it like toys pushed across a polished table. The stillness makes every sound louder. Chain clinks a cough. The creak of a bulkhead. Somewhere, a man hums under his breath to keep from thinking. In that quiet, the knocks start. Not inside the ship. On it, 3 sharp raps on the hull, down by the waterline. Then again, 6 feet along. Then again, nearer the bow. Like someone walking along outside, knocking as they go. We freeze. Men look at each other, half grinning, waiting for someone to say it's just thermal flexing or some piece of loose gear. No one says it. The knocks make the crockery on the mess table jump. Tea ripples in mugs. The sound comes up through the soles of our boots and into our legs. They stop by the mess bulkhead. On the other side of the steel, the Atlantic presses like a palm. The 7 look up as one. Time, Riley says. I don't remember drawing my pistol, but it's in my hand. My fingers are slick on the grip. Stay where you are, I say. They smile. It's not friendly. It's not hostile either. It's the look of men who have been called to parade. Above the bosun's pipe shrills. Action stations. Hail. To asdic. The intercom barks. Now, lad, move. The ship jolts as engines wind up. Somewhere forward, guns slam round. The convoy changes shape, ships moving to pre-arranged courses like a slow, rusted dance. I look at the 7. I look at the ladder. Riley sees the war in my face and tips his head slightly. We'll be at our posts, he says. I run. In the asdic room, the noise is already building. The sea, which has been sullenly quiet for hours, is suddenly full of returns. Pings come back jagged, smeared, confused. Multiple contacts. I shout into the pipe. Bearing all over the bloody shop. Range, unclear. Could be decoys. Could be something else. I focus on one. Adjust the narrow beam. It firms into a long, cigar-shaped smear with a clear leading edge. U-boat, that, at least, is familiar. Contact bearing 230, I say. Closing range. 800 yards, and shortening. Very well, the captain says. His voice is steady, but I can hear the strain under it. Bring her about. Prepare pattern, Bravo. We turn. Depth charges clank and rattle on their rails. The sea outside, perfectly calm, now feels like black glass hiding teeth. The first pattern goes over with the same savage joy it always does. Charges roll, pistols tick down. The explosions come up through the hull like fists. Spray hammers the sides. Any change? The captain asks. I listen. The contact darts, slows, shifts deeper. He's sliding under us. I say maybe damaged. Maybe trying to go deep. We turn again. Another pattern. More thunder, underwater. Something else moves under our keel. It's not the U-boat. It's bigger, or closer, or both. The asdic trace warps, stretches, like a shadow cast by a shape you can't see. My teeth ache. I begin, and stop, because I don't know how to say it. What? The captain snaps. Something, under us, I say. No Doppler, no prop noise, just mass, like a hull, length approximately. Another blast shakes us. The trace tears reforms, like a destroyer. I finish. The lights flicker, under us. The captain says, we're in 70 fathoms here. No wrecks charted. The knocks on the hull start again. Harder now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They roll up from the bilges, along the plates, under our feet. I feel them in my bones. In my mind's eye, I see Bedford again, sliding under our keel, broken spine and all, hugging our shape. Hale, the captain says, his voice suddenly very calm. Confirm U-boat contact. I try. God, I try. But the sea is full of noise now. Not just our own charges. Something else. A low, grinding roar like steel on stone. A hiss like escaping steam. A thin, ragged singing. The headphones are full of voices. Not clear words. Just syllables. Breath. The rise and fall of speech. Hands touch my shoulders. I flinch, tearing the phones off. Riley stands behind me, in the asdic room, water dripping from the end of his nose onto my collar. The others fill the doorway, blocking the light. You're straddling us, he says. Careful with those cans, Mr. Hale. You're supposed to be confined, I say. My voice sounds small, even to me. We are, he says. We're confined here. To you. To your hull. To your lists. He taps the notebook lying open by my elbow, the one I'm not supposed to be keeping. His finger leaves a wet mark. Why us? I ask. Because fear has stripped everything else away. Why this ship? Riley looks faintly puzzled, as if I've asked why water is wet. Because you hurt us, he says. Because you rode us down. Because you went back through the wreckage and counted our dead and then sailed on. And no one said our names again. That's not true, I say. They put you on the wall. They carved your ship into stone. Stone on land, he says. His head tilts, listening to something only he can hear. The sea doesn't read stone. It reads steel, ink, blood. The ship shudders. There's a booming crash from forward, then a long, tearing scream. Men shout. Somewhere, a gun goes quiet. We've got a real enemy out there, I say. If you pull us under, you just give them what they want. He smiles. It's almost gentle. You think they matter? He says. Tin fish and gun barrels. They're just ways to get men into the water. We're older than that. His hand, still resting on my notebook, tightens. Call us up. You get us, he says. You can't send us back unless you let us finish what we started. What's that? I say, throat dry. He doesn't answer. The lights go out. In the dark, the asdic screen glows faintly. The phosphor trace, a ghost loop. A single bright blip crawls round, steady, right under us. Emergency power. Someone yells from the bridge. The ship lurches. The red emergency lamps flicker on, painting everything in bloody light. In that glow, the men from Bedford looked less like men, and more like figures molded from wax left too close to a fire. Hale. The captain roars through the speaking tube. What have we got? Something under our keel, I say. Range 0. Bearing 0. Depth charging will be. Inadvisable. Bloody marvelous, he says. Fine. All engines ahead. Let's see if we can outrun our own spooks. We don't. For the next hour, whatever is under us stays under us. We zig, it zags. We turn hard to starboard, engines straining, and the asdic trace stays locked to our center like a barnacle, like we've grown a second hull. The U-boats, for once, leave us alone. We see torpedo tracks streaking toward other ships, but none curl our way. The convoy loses a tramp steamer and a whale factory ship. Calder keeps her skin. At dawn, the trace fades. The knocks stop. The men from Bedford disappear. This time, they don't come back to the mess. We muster the crew. We search every compartment, every locker, every bit of crawl space. No sign, no wet footprints, no stray puddles. I want them logged as missing, the captain says at last, voice hoarse, cause unknown. Do not speculate. Not in writing. We arrive in Liverpool looking like every other tired escort. Scorched paint, tired eyes, a deck that smells of oil and old rope. The dead we can prove are taken off, wrapped in canvas. The missing go on a list. The Admiralty men who come aboard wear neat suits and tight mouths. They take our notebook, the unofficial one, and slip it into a briefcase. They ask questions in a small cabin that smells of damp paper. They write very little down. How many survivors did you pick up? One asks me. 7, I say. He looks at his notes. Records say 6. I wrote 7 names, I say. He shrugs, a tiny movement. Ink runs at sea. Memory plays tricks. He doesn't look me in the eye when he says it. How many men have to drown before you consider we might know the difference between 6 and 7? I ask. He shuts the briefcase. Thank you, petty officer. That will be all. They sign off our patrol. They send us to sea again. We sail. We escort. We ping. We drop cans. We bring some men home and leave others under gray sheets. Time does what it does. Ships sink. Ships are built. Men go under. Men climb gangways. Names are carved into stone. Bedford becomes another line on a memorial wall. But the pattern doesn't stop. Every time Calder takes to sea after that patrol, something comes with us. Little things. Names on lists that belong to no one. Extra boots in the rack. A mug on a mess table that no one owns, but that always finds its way back to the same spot. And sometimes, on the worst nights, when the wind is high and the screams from the water are loudest, I see them again. 7 shapes on the quarterdeck. Gray faces, dark eyes, caps tilted just so. They never look at me now. They look past me, toward whatever ship is burning that night. We're a ferry, MacLeod would have said if he'd lived to see it. A shuttle between the living and the drowned. I don't know when Calder herself finally went. Not with me aboard. I caught a splinter in another convoy, got sent ashore, never quite made it back to sea before the war ended. I heard, in a pub years later, that she'd been scrapped, cut up in some muddy yard by men who'd never felt deck plates buck under depth charge recoil. I didn't believe it. Ships like that don't go quietly. They go down, they go under, they get added to the list. Which brings us back to now, to the knocks on my door when it rains, to the way the bathroom tap turns itself on at 3 in the morning and the water in the basin moves in a slow, steady swell that has nothing to do with pipes and everything to do with long habit. To the names. They're on the tablet by my chair. The doctor says it's dementia. Typing things I don't remember typing. Names of men I haven't seen in decades. They appear in the notes app, in the search bar, in half-completed emails to people I don't know. Riley, Harris, Morton, MacLeod, Marsh, Ellis. One more. A space. Waiting. Tonight, the rain is heavy. The gutter overflows. The knock at the door is harder. I haul myself up, bones protesting. The room smells wrong. Not just old man and stale tea. Oil, wet rope, tobacco that hasn't been grown in 70 years. The corridor outside my flat is dark through the peephole. The bulb has gone again. or something's standing in front of it. I open the door. The hallway is full of fog. Not white, pretty fog-like on the telly. Thick, gray, with a taste of salt and rust. It eddies round my ankles, cold even through my slippers. They're there, of course. 7 men in old patterned duffel coats and cork life jackets, caps tilted, water pooling at their feet. Their faces are less ruined than the last time I saw them. More like they were the night we dragged them out of the Atlantic. Less like wax, more like men. Riley steps forward. His boots don't make a sound on the lino. They leave wet prints. "Evening, Tom," he says. His breath steams, though the hallway air is not that cold. "Time." My heart's still beating, I say. "You lot don't run the schedule." Behind him, the others smile, or don't. Marsh and Ellis stand among them. My own dead mixed into theirs, uniforms blurred at the edges like someone's painted them over clear coats that never dried. "Convoys forming," Riley says. "We're short one." I look past him. The corridor has stretched. It's longer than it should be. Doors multiplying down its length. Walls sweating condensation. At the far end, where the little window to the car park should be, there is only a dark, low sky and the glow of a burning ship on a black sea. "You could leave me here," I say. "You could find someone else. There's no shortage." Riley shakes his head, small, almost apologetic. "You heard us," he says. "You wrote us down. You counted us when no one else did. That makes you ours." My walking stick feels heavier in my hand. The carved nick near the handle is warm, as if someone has just touched it from the other side. "Does it hurt?" I ask. He considers. Behind him, a wave passes along the corridor, making the doors flex. Water laps at skirting boards. Somewhere faint, I hear a whistle, the shrill note of a bosun's call over wind. "Depends where you stand," he says. "On deck, you get wind. Under, you get quiet. Either way, you get company." A laugh bubbles up out of me. It sounds cracked, unfamiliar. "Company," I say. "That's what we always wanted. That's why we threw ropes in at 3 in the morning when we should have steamed past, like Mac kept telling us." "You did your job," Riley says. "We're doing ours." He holds out a hand. The skin on his palm is cold and pruned, like he's been in the bath too long. There's salt under his nails. A faint smear of oil on his thumb. I look back into my flat. The armchair, the mug, the photo in the cracked frame. A life reduced to a handful of objects. On the tablet screen, which I must have left unlocked, letters are marching across a blank document. Thomas Hale. The cursor blinks. I step forward. The floor tilts under my feet. For a second, I smell damp carpet and boiled cabbage. Then it's steel under my boots, salt in my nose, wind in my ears. The fog thins. The corridor is gone. I stand on a quarterdeck again, paint flaking under my hand, where it grips the rail. The Atlantic lies out there, flat as glass, stars smeared above. A line of ships crawls across the horizon, their lights hooded. The knock on the hull comes up through my bones. 3, then 3, then 3. Men move past me, shadows in duffel coats, caps low. Someone sings, soft, an old tune about leaving. Riley stands beside me, cap straight now. "Welcome back," he says. I look down. My hands are young again. If you're still listening, if you're still here at the end of this, then you're the sort who stays on deck longer than he should. There are more of us, more ships, more names that don't stay where they're written. Stick around, the sea remembers. Convoy HX-112, HMS Calder, HMS Bedford. All the ones who went under, and all the ones who thought they'd got away.